The 2019 budget proposal is intended to further place the economy on the path of inclusive, diversified, and sustainable growth in order to continue to lift significant numbers of our students out of poverty. The underlying drives of the 2019 revenue projections have been adjusted to reflect current realities. On the expenditure side, allocations to ministries, departments, and agencies of government were guided by the three objectives of the ERGP, which are: 1, restoring and sustaining growth; 2, investing in our people; and 3, building a globally competitive economy. The 2019 budget proposal is based on the following assumptions. A, oil price benchmark of $60 per barrel. B, oil production estimate of 2.3 million barrels per day, including condensates. C, exchange rate of 305 naira per American dollar. 4, real GDP growth of 3.01%, and E, inflation rate of 9.98%. Notwithstanding the recent softening in international oil prices, the considered view of most reputable analysts is that the downward trend in oil prices in recent months is not necessarily reflective of the outlook for 2019. However, as a responsible administration, we will continue to monitor the situation and will respond to any changes in the international oil price outlook for 2019. With regard to oil production, I have directed the NNPC to take all possible measures to achieve the targeted oil production of 2.3 million barrels per day. The total revenue is projected at 6.97 trillion naira, which is 3% lower than the 2018 estimate of 7.17 trillion naira, consisting of oil revenue projected at 3.73 trillion naira, while non-oil revenue is estimated at 1.39 trillion naira. Excuse me. Yes. We have allowed 305 billion naira, equivalent to 1 billion United States dollars, for underway recovery by NNPC on premium motor secrets in 2019. We will continue working to bring it downward so that such resources are freed up to meet the developmental needs of our people. In a period of economic challenges, where purchasing power is weak, we must reduce some of the burden on Nigerians. The problem with subsidies in the past was abuse and corruption. Today, the government through the NNPC is the sole importer of premium PMC premium motor secrets, and therefore the under recovery is from the NNPC's trading account. This means the possibility of some marketers falsifying claims is removed. The estimate for non-oil revenue consists of 799.52 billion naira from companies' income tax, 229.34 billion naira from value-added tax and customs duties of 302.5 billion naira. We have reduced our expectation from independent revenues to 624.58 billion naira. Other revenues expected in 2019 include various recoveries of 203.38 billion naira, 710 billion naira as proceeds from the restructuring of government equity in joint ventures and other sundry incomes of 104.1 billion naira. A total expenditure of 8.83 trillion naira is estimated for 2019 budget. This includes grants and donor funds of 209.92 billion naira. This provision is less than 2018 federal government appropriated expenditure estimate of 9.12 trillion naira. However, it is higher than the 8.6 trillion naira originally proposed by the executive branch to the National Assembly for 2018. The budget deficit is projected to decrease to 1.86 trillion naira, or 1.3% of the GDP. In 2019, from 1.95 trillion naira projected to 2018. This reduction is in line with our plans to progressively reduce deficit and borrowings over the medium term. The proposed 8.83 trillion naira of 2019 aggregate expenditure comprises A, recurrent cost of 4.04 trillion naira, recurrent. B, debt service of 2.14 trillion naira. And C, statutory transfers of about 492.36 billion naira. D, sinking fund of 120 billion naira, which will be used to retire maturing bond to local contractors. And E, capital expenditure of 2.031 trillion naira, including capital supplementation, but excluding the capital component of statutory transfers. The provision for statutory transfers in 2019 is 492.36 billion naira, which is a 7% decrease from 2018. However, transfers to Niger Delta Development Commission and the Universal Basic Education Commission are projected to be higher as they are directly related to the quantum of oil revenue. The sum of 2.14 trillion naira has been provided for debt service. Of this amount, 80% is to service domestic debt, which amounts to about 70% of the total debt. I will read that again. The sum of 2.14 trillion naira has been provided for debt service, of which amount 80% is to service domestic debt, which accounts for 70% of the total debt. Although our national debt is within sustainable limits, we need to increase our domestic resource mobilization to bring down our debt-revenue ratio over the medium term. A substantial part of the current cost proposal for 2019 is for payment of salaries and overheads. in ministries providing critical service, public services as such. A, 569.07 billion naira for the Ministry of Interior. B, 435.62 billion naira for the Ministry of Defense. C, 462.24 billion naira for the Ministry of Education. And D, 315.62 billion naira for the Ministry of Health. The allocations to these ministries represent significant increases over votes in previous budgets, underscoring our commitment to increase investment in national security and human capital development. Personnel costs estimated at 2.29 trillion naira, currently amount to nearly 4% of projected revenues. 40%, I beg your pardon. Substantial savings have been made from wider use of integrated personnel payroll information system platform. I have directed that all MDAs must implement the IPPIS by March 2019. We have made provisions for staff promotion areas and recruitment by the armed forces, police, and paramilitary agencies. We have also provided for the settlement of inherited outstanding pension liabilities. Again, we have included provisions for the implementation of a new national minimum wage. Let me say something about minimum wage issue. I am committed to addressing the issue of a minimum wage, and I will be sending a bill to you, the National Assembly, on this. However, in order to avoid a fiscal crisis for the federal government, as well as the state, it is important to devise ways to ensure that its implementation does not lead to an increase in the level of borrowing. I am accordingly setting up a high-powered technical committee to advise on ways of funding an increase in the minimum wage and the attendant wage adjustments without having to resort to additional borrowings. The work of this technical committee will be the basis of a finance bill which will be submitted to the National Assembly alongside the minimum wage bill. In addition, the technical committee will recommend modalities for the implementation of the new minimum wage in such a manner as to maximize its inflationary impact, as well as ensure that its introduction does not lead to job losses. We have allocated 2.28 trillion naira for capital spending, inclusive of capital in statutory transfers. For comprehensiveness and transparency, the expenditure plans of the larger government-owned enterprises, as well as multilateral and bilateral project-tied loans, have been integrated into 2019 to 2021 medium-term fiscal framework.